Why does a hamster seem busiest exactly when your house grows quiet and the first pale morning light appears? For a hamster, early morning is not the start of activity, but the careful ending of a long night. Before resting, this tiny animal performs three habits that protect its body, its territory, and its stored food. What looks adorable to us is actually a survival routine shaped by caution, memory, and life underground. Our hamster is a small Syrian hamster, golden brown on the back, cream on the belly, with glossy black eyes. He has tiny rounded ears, a pink nose, white whiskers, and quick stop-start movements that reveal constant alertness. He lives inside a quiet enclosure with deep paper bedding, a cork tunnel, a sand bath, and a wheel. Dawn light brushes the room softly, as in his first morning habit begins before he disappears into sleep. He starts by cleaning and stretching every part of himself after hours of running, digging, sniffing, and carrying. This is not vanity at all, it is body maintenance for an animal that survives by staying ready. A hamster's fur, paws, whiskers, and scent all carry important information about comfort, movement, and safety. So he sits near the burrow entrance and pauses, letting the stillness tell him nothing dangerous has changed. Only after that pause does he begin washing, because calm surroundings let careful grooming become worth the time. His front paws rise to his face in tiny repeated strokes, sweeping dust away from nose and whiskers. He licks both paws first, turning them into soft brushes that can reach delicate places without scratching. Each wipe clears sand, food crumbs, and loose bedding that might dull his sensitive morning awareness. Next, he rubs around his eyes and ears, places where tiny irritations could matter in a small body. Then he bends sideways and combs through his coat with rapid nibbles from the front teeth. Those quick nibbles are gentle grooming motions, not eating, and they help separate hairs and remove debris. He twists farther, reaching shoulders, ribs, and hips until his coat lies smooth against his round body. Grooming also restores the fur's order after a night spent squeezing through tunnels and turning inside hides. When prey animals keep their coat tidy, movement becomes easier and the body feels easier to monitor. A rough patch can mean trapped bedding, dampness, or something unusual touching the skin. And so this little washing session doubles as a full body inspection performed with paws, nose, teeth, and memory. He pauses to lick one paw again, then cleans each whisker base with astonishing patience and control. Whiskers are not decoration here. They help him judge space, edges, openings, and safe movement in dim light. If whiskers feel clean and free, narrow roads become easier to trust during those last morning checks. Now he stretches by lengthening his body low across the bedding, hind feet pressing back behind him. The stretch looks sleepy and sweet, but it resets muscles worked hard by wheel running and burrow climbing. He arches, relaxes, and repeats, letting tension leave the spine before sleep makes the body still. Then he reaches one forepaw forward and shifts his weight, testing balance on the soft, uneven bedding. Even this small balancing movement matters, because hamsters navigate textures that change every time they dig. He shakes once, barely, and loose paper bits drift from his fur like pale watercolor confetti. A final face wash follows, slower now, as if his body is confirming that everything feels correct again. Some hamsters also enjoy a brief roll or shuffle through sand to help manage oils in the coat. In our enclosure, he steps into the sand bath and pushes his shoulder down with practiced confidence. Sand lifts oil and dust, but the deeper purpose is comfort, control, and familiar texture under the skin. He wriggles once, flicks grains aside, and rises, looking calmer than he did a moment earlier. The first habit is ending, and its message is simple. A safe body is a readable body, and only when his own condition feels right does he move to the second morning habit. Now he begins checking the world around him, not dramatically, but with methodical little routes. A hamster's home is remembered as pathways, corners, scents, shadows, textures, and hidden exits. So before resting, He travels those known points to confirm that his map still matches reality. He leaves the burrow entrance and moves along the enclosure wall where the edges feel most predictable. His nose stays low, whiskers forward, because scent and touch often speak earlier than sight. He stops at the water bottle first and sniffs the metal tip where familiar smells should remain. Nothing startling is there, so he takes a sip and lets that small certainty settle him. Then he follows the same curved route past the cork tunnel, brushing his flank lightly against the entrance. That brush is subtle scent marking, a way of refreshing ownership inside a world that must stay known. For a small prey animal, familiarity is not luxury. It is one of the strongest forms of safety. He continues toward the wheel, circles its base, and pauses where his own body scent already lingers. This is not random wandering, because hamsters often revisit important places in repeated, predictable patterns. Repetition lets them notice differences quickly, even tiny changes in smell, object position, or sound. He rises briefly on his hind legs, stretching upward to sample the air above the bedding. Standing tall looks curious, and it is, but it also gathers information from a wider scent layer. From this height, he can compare the room's calm morning air with the scents trapped below. He drops down and slips through the cork tunnel, moving slower than he did during the night. Morning checks are quieter than nighttime exploration, because he is verifying known territory, not searching for novelty. At the far side of the tunnel, he presses his belly low and freezes for one heartbeat. That tiny freeze is important. Stopping helps him separate background sounds from anything newly suspicious. A distant refrigerator hum, a soft curtain shift, and the familiar silence of the room pass unchanged. Satisfied, he moves again and rubs his side near the wooden hide, renewing another scent post. Syrian hamsters often rely on scent marking to structure territory, especially around important routes and resources. To us, yes, the movement seems tiny, but to him, it redraws a boundary in invisible ink. He noses a bedding mount he piled earlier and checks whether the tunnel opening still stays loose. If bedding has collapsed or shifted, he will nudge it back into a shape he can trust. Control over small space matters deeply when your instincts expect safety to come from enclosed shelter. He digs twice, rearranges one paper strip, and leaves the entrance smoother than before. That quick repair shows the second habit is not only inspection, it is also gentle maintenance. He turns toward the sand bath again, sniffing the realm where his paws have carried scents all night. Then he crosses the open center, but only after scanning both sides from a half-raised stance. Open ground is brief and exposed, so even in a cage, hamsters cross it with built-in caution. While he reaches the ceramic dish, noses the edge, and checks for any unfamiliar food smell left from earlier. Even a harmless change can deserve attention, because small animals survive by noticing before problems grow. He moves on to the corner behind the wheel, a private place where hidden crumbs sometimes gather. There he pauses longer, reading the corner with nose, paws, whiskers, and old memory. The check is emotional too, though not in a human way. Predictability lowers tension in his nervous system. When the world still smells like his world, rest becomes easier, deeper, and far less tense. So the second habit ends, not with excitement, but with relief, disguised as ordinary movement. Now his body is clean and his territory is confirmed, and the third habit can begin. The last morning habit is all about food. But not simply eating breakfast where it lies. Hamsters are natural hoarders, built to gather first and consume later in safer hidden places. Their cheek pouches let them transport food quickly, reducing exposed time in open areas outside the nest. So when morning comes, he does what wild instinct has always taught him to do. He approaches the scattered seeds with the focused speed of an animal managing valuable time. Instead of sitting down immediately to feast, he sorts with his nose and chooses what travels best. A millet grain, a pellet piece, one pumpkin seed, and a flake of dried herb disappear quickly. His cheeks begin to round, making his tiny face look fuller even though he is not overeating. The pouches are temporary storage bags, not greed, and certainly not the silly mischief people imagine. Caring food first means he can decide later what to eat, hide, or save. He turns from the feeding area and hurries back toward the burrow with remarkable efficiency. This back and forth pattern is classic hamster behavior, especially when the animal feels secure enough to store food. Inside the burrow chamber, he unloads the first collection into a hidden corner near shredded paper. That stash is tomorrow's insurance. A private pantry protected by darkness, walls, and familiar scent. He does not rest yet, because one trip rarely feels sufficient to a brain built for uncertainty. Out he comes again, following almost the same route, trusting memory more than haste. This time he targets a larger pellet, working it sideways until it fits comfortably inside a pouch. Watching him pack food looks almost magical. But it is ordinary survival engineering. A hamster in the wild cannot assume the next exposed moment will stay safe long enough for chewing, so carrying first and eating later is often the smarter choice. He collects another seed, another crumb, then pauses to nibble one softer piece on the spot. That small nibble matters too, because hoarding and immediate eating often happen in the same session. Energy now supports movement, while stored food protects the coming hours when he stays hidden. He lifts his head and listens again before crossing back through the open center. Even during feeding, the earlier territory check continues in the background of every choice. Nothing feels wrong, so he slips into the nest and empties the second load beside the first. Then he noses the pile, arranging favorites, deeper and less desirable pieces, nearer the edge. Hamsters can be surprisingly organized, separating foods by size, freshness, or easy reach. He turns once in the chamber and adds loose bedding over part of the hoard. Covering food helps keep the stash concealed and integrated with the nest's familiar smell. One final trip takes him to a missed sunflower fragment near the tunnel mouth. He picks it up, then pauses by the water bottle for another small drink. Hydration after activity is another form of quiet maintenance, just like grooming was earlier this morning. With cheeks empty now and his hidden pantry refreshed, the morning routine begins to soften. The three habits together have prepared body, place, and provisions before sleep. That is why a hamster's morning looks busy right before it looks peaceful. And what humans call settling down is, for him, the careful closing of every unfinished question. Is my fur clean enough, my muscles loose enough, and my body ready to rest without irritation? Does my territory still smell familiar, feel navigable, and promise safe shelter from anything unexpected? Is there enough hidden food waiting nearby when evening returns and another active cycle begins? Only after those questions are answered does he circle inside the bedding and lower his body. He tucks his paws, blinks slowly, and lets the burrow hold him like a small warm room. From outside, you might think he simply got sleepy all at once, with no deeper reason. But now you know his calm is built step by step through three deeply instinctive morning habits. And in that tiny 2D body, every gentle motion is a quiet way of making the world safe.